accessing services, living independently, accessing justice. These are all things that non-disabled persons take for granted. But how often do we stop and look at the other side? Jamaica has made great strides towards improving the lives of persons with disabilities. The island nation of Jamaica was the first in the world to sign and ratify the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. We have a policy which has since been strengthened by the Disabilities Act of 2014. Despite these gains, Jamaica remains a hostile space for persons with disabilities. I'm your host, Marion Myrie, and in this edition of Towards a More Inclusive Jamaica, we are going to highlight some of the challenges persons with disabilities face in the legal, attitudinal, and built environments with a view to changing them. Meet Sasha Gay, a bright and talented student of the University of Technology, where she is pursuing a Bachelor of Education in Business and Computer Studies. On the weekends, Sasha Gay assumes duties in her mom's small business. In addition to school and work, Sasha Gay makes time for extracurricular activities she hopes will one day give her the opportunity to represent her country in the long distance and sprint events.
I participate in Paralympics training. I'm training actually to participate in the Olympics. And I do swimming part-time. Well, that's for fun, just for me.
Sasha Gay, a youngster from Spanish Town with such light and promise, has had her fair share of disability-based discrimination. She gives an account of an incident which has left her scarred.
One Christmas, I wanted to braid my hair, so I decided to go and get the braid at a shop. So I wheeled my wheelchair and I went to the store. Upon entering the store, the place was crowded because of the season. It was Christmas. So I entered the store. As I say, it was a bit crowded. Upon entering the store, the operator of the store, who is a foreign national I should say, he approached me by, "Where you going?" So I replied to him that I'm going to buy something. "Where you going to that chair in my place?" So I say, but turn and I look at it and I was like, "But I spend my money just like anybody else. What you mean by when I go in my dirty chair? Chair not dirty." Him cuss. So honestly I felt bad.
Despite the intervention of other patrons at the store, the shop owner did not relent.
I heard other persons was saying, "Why are you talking to her like that?" and stuff like that. But then honestly, I felt so bad because looking at it, I was like, somebody that travel all the way, come to my country and talk to me like I'm a nobody, just because I am in a wheelchair and I have a disability. I'm human just like anybody. Honestly, I left the store with tears in my eyes because I was very sad. I was heartbroken.
And as if that were not enough, more appalling was the treatment of Sasha Gay's mother when she tried to defend her.
Later went back to my mommy. I had tears in my eyes and she said, "What's wrong?" and I said, "Nothing." She continued asking me what was wrong. I was there until I started to tell her, and when I was telling her, I started to cry because I was looking at her and I said, I didn't do anything, and look at how this man talking to me. And honestly, she was there with me and I didn't even know when she disappeared. I was talking and then I realized I was just talking to myself. And she disappeared. She went there. She was very upset because she wanted to know why they had talked to me like that. And she didn't get any good answer. she was basically thrown from the store. In the manner in which they talked to her, they even shoved her out.
As in physically?
Yes, one of the workers shoved her out. It's like she didn't have any voice, she didn't have any right to go there and talk or for them to hear her views or anything.
Refusing to suffer in silence for the wrong that was perpetrated on her, Sasha Gay became her own best advocate.
I went physically, I took taxi, I took bus, and I remember I went to EOS Circle, I went to different organizations trying to get justice. And then I went to the Star because I wanted others to see that persons out there with a disability, they already have to face the fact that they have a disability and they are struggling with that, and others out there, other persons that are able-bodied, are making life harder for them because of the fact that they are in the wheelchair, or not just the wheelchair, but having a disability in general.
While her efforts to get justice garnered some support from members of the community, it also triggered a strange turn in events.
Right after the article was published in the Star, I was basically, alright, this man came to me, was a police officer. He came to me, basically he was trying to shut me up. The operator sent him to me.
To add insult to serious injury, intimidatory tactics were used to silence Sasha Gay in her quest for justice. For Sasha Gay at this point, it was about more than just herself. It was also about the need to safeguard the human rights of the disability community to access services and to live independently on an equal footing with non-disabled persons.
Yes, I was discriminated against. I think I was discriminated because a lot of other persons were there and they weren't spoken to in the manner in which I was spoken to. And the only difference with them, we are all human and we are all of the same race. Only the operators of a different race, I could say. The only difference with me and the other patrons was that I was in a wheelchair and they were walking.
Refusing to be daunted, Sasha Gay continues to speak out and has this to say about the impact of discrimination on persons with disabilities.
I would like more from other persons, including the operator. I would like them to understand that they should treat people better. They shouldn't talk to people like that, even if for the case where I was going in there to beg or something like that, they don't have to talk to someone, because I know that persons with disability have a hard life.
Less extreme but still wrong is that aspect of the attitudinal environment where some non-disabled persons feel that ridicule of persons who are otherwise able is okay.
Well, go on.
Yo, that exam was really hard. I answered all the questions, but I don't think I got an A on this one.
Relax, no man. Don't worry yourself. It's a beautiful day. Come on, we could play some football.
What's the dummy them? Sign language is not dumb language. It is the medium used by deaf persons to communicate. If you can, learn basic sign language, such as hello or good morning.
Well, go on.
Yo, that exam was really hard. I answered one.
Relax, no man. Don't worry yourself. It's a beautiful day. Come on, we could play some football.
Good morning. Would you like to play with us?
Other strategies for communicating with the deaf include speaking clearly so that they can read your lips and utilizing text messaging applications such as WhatsApp. Challenges abound for members of the deaf community as they try to navigate a hearing world. Kamar Groves, Information Technology Coordinator at the Jamaica Association for the Deaf, tells us more.
In the hearing community, there is oppression and discrimination. To me personally, for example, access to communication. For example, I try to face certain circumstances in the hearing world. I live in a hearing world. The world is hearing centric, and I am a deaf person. I, as a deaf person, really represent a minority, and I'm trying to enter the hearing world and to access their services. But unfortunately, I am oppressed as I try to do that. You know, for example, if I went to buy something. Went to the store to buy something and they have a glass, you know, I can't communicate with them. There is a barrier. So I can't see through the glass. I can't speak to the person behind it. They can see me, but there's no way for me to communicate to them. I can't write a note, I can't use gestures. I'm blinded to what's happening behind that glass. So that's a challenge for me. That's just one example. So I'm trying to present information to them, communicating the fact that I am deaf and I have a particular way of communicating, but they're not talking to me. They're not facilitating my mode of communication.
Challenges in the built environment abound for other disability groups as well. Conrad Harris, Executive Director of the Jamaica Society for the Blind, outlines other barriers that exist for persons with disabilities, some of which can be easily corrected.
Yesterday, I went into the arcade here because somebody brought my attention to the fact that there were some terrible sidewalks there. And when I went there, there were on an arcade road. There were 4 open drains right next to each other. It was just wide open, and it seems that they have been there for quite a while. And things like that, are extremely dangerous to persons who are blind and visually impaired, and indeed to other members of the community, because you don't know, persons may be distracted for whatever reason, and they could easily fall in any of those things and get injured.
Kamika Brathwaite, Information and Training Officer at the Jamaica Society for the Blind, cites an additional shortcoming.
The light posts, they're put any and everywhere. So it's not like there's any one set way to put them. So a blind person will know, okay, light posts are usually on the left side of the sidewalk. No, they're put anywhere. So they'll buck up into them if they're not navigating properly. So those things are a challenge.
Because of the things that cause blindness, most of the persons who are blind will be elderly. And so when you have that put together with the terrible conditions of some of our sidewalks, it really, doesn't encourage persons who are blind to seek to be independent, to get out there. Many would say the country as a dangerous place.
One might ask, how has the pre-existing issues for the disability community been exacerbated by the COVID pandemic?
Another concern we have is with COVID now, the restrictions with respect to social distancing and mask wearing. It's tough for a deaf person to communicate with a mask. A hearing person is trying to talk, couldn't even read their lips if we were able to because it's covered. And then now we we might have to resort to writing. Sometimes some deaf persons struggle with understanding the way another person writes and expresses themselves. So we have many challenges today, and they continue, in these unique times.
Another area of difficulty for persons with disabilities is the attitudes of employers, in that there tends to be some reluctance to make the necessary accommodations.
Another example, for example, I might have friends. I go to their workplace, they might get staff meeting. There are no interpreters at that staff meeting. Sometimes the boss calls all of the staff together, and he knows he has a deaf staff member, but he provides no interpreter for the person. So when I speak to them, I talk to them, how was staff meeting, and then I have no idea what happened with it. If they are in the meeting, they might ask, what's being said, what's the information is being dispensed, and all they'll be told is like, no worry yourself, later we'll fill you in, later we'll tell you. When if a problem arises at work, they have no idea what to do. Then the boss comes down and them already told you what to do, already explained this, and like, yeah, but it wasn't communicated clearly. So there is no deep explanation of policies of the workplace. It's probably just some surface explanation, some simple concepts, simple principles. And it's not enough information for a deaf person to be fully aware of the policies of their workplace so that they can fully execute the responsibilities that they've been given.
In addition to the daily struggle persons with disabilities face, the path to justice remains unclear, despite the fact that Jamaica was the first in the world to sign and ratify the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. We lag behind the rest of the world in activating the relevant legislation here at home. Attorney at Law Nadine Atkinson Flowers gives an update on its current status.
The disability legislation, as it were, there is currently what it is called the Disabilities Act of 2014. However, and I just mentioned it, the act has yet to be gazetted, so it is still not yet in force. The bill weaved its way through the Houses of Parliament, being the House of Representatives and then the Senate. Now it needs to have the Governor General's assent.
The objectives of the Disabilities Act will require some cultural shifts.
To promote, protect and ensure the full and equal enjoyment by persons with disabilities of the privilege and interests and benefits on an equal basis with everyone else in the country. So those persons who have, for lack of a better word, they're able-bodied, as well as persons in the disability community who might be considered other abled or any other inclusive terms that persons use now. So the government wishes for the act to be that vessel that ensures there is equality amongst all members of the Jamaican society.
The Disabilities Act is not yet gazetted. Explain for the sake of the viewers what that means.
The act has not yet been gazetted, meaning it has not been signed off by the Governor General to give it the force of law. And the way to explain that best is by using an illustration. Let's say, for example, I have a disability and you and I have an interaction and I deemed whatever you did to be discrimination and I wanted to take you to court or whatever. I could not use this particular legislation because it has not been signed off on as yet.
How does the disability community feel about the delay?
The act was passed in 2014. Yeah. And I am sure that there are many acts that have come since and have been passed. So one of the things it does, it says to you that, well, you know, the issues surrounding disabilities are not being taken seriously.
And what can it be argued are the apparent costs of the delay, especially as it regards those of us without a voice.
Okay, so I remember some time ago in the news, I think it was a newspaper, and there was an article, the headline was, "They can't say no." Now that, at that time, it was a headline and it represented females in the deaf community, and a man trying to make advances at her, and she just had to accept it. So it became a public discussion where many men thought that, you know, they could rape deaf women easily because they can't scream or they can't resist them. So it became a negative connotation. It affected many deaf females.
Fellow Jamaicans, we have work to do. The World Health Organization estimates that 15% of the world's population lives with some form of disability, of whom 2 to 4% experience significant difficulties in functioning. This means that if the current population of Jamaica is 2,973,463 persons, then 297,346 Jamaicans have a disability. This is a big number, and too great a number for us to continue along our current trajectory. It is time to change the narrative and to treat the needs of persons with disabilities with the highest priority. The entry into force of the Disabilities Act will go a far way in causing persons with disabilities to feel like they belong in Jamaica.